This is True Transformative Fitness, and welcome to my Gladiator workout. The tools that we're using that I'm showing you are two 15-pound short mace bells. The width of the handles are fairly wide, so it's going to challenge our hand grip and forearms. And I created this movie in honor of the original Gladiator movie starring Russell Crowe, which is my favorite movie of all time. And I know they just released a sequel. So why not honor it with a workout, right? So with this workout, it's a full body workout geared towards flexibility, hypertrophy, meaning building muscle, flexibility, and cardiovascular component to it. Because we're gonna be resting minimally in between sets. We're doing 2 exercises per muscle group, and we're going to start off with the legs. So if you notice, I'm holding the I'm holding the mace bell heads upside down. And so I'm starting off at the bottom. So when I'm exploding up and the mace bells are upside down when they're behind me, I'm getting a dynamic stretch in my upper body. So this movement is stretching us in our lower body and the upper body, because with the mace bells coming down against gravity, is getting us into a dynamic stretch position in the bottom of that movement. So we're being stretched at the bottom of that movement, and then momentum is bringing them behind us, which is stretching our back out. So this is an excellent warm up to get the lower body and upper body prime for the work to come later on in the workout. So we're doing 20 repetitions of 2 sets. So we got 2 times to get it right. So you see I finished the first set, and as promised, we're going to be resting minimally because we want to keep that heart rate up to cause an adaptation. And also, we're always promoting good posture and cadence, because that's saying that we're controlling the movement, and we're also not setting ourselves up for any potential injuries, unnecessary injuries, right? So here we go again, driving in the bottom of that movement, driving it in the top, getting a good stretch at the bottom and the top, and we're warming the whole body up, the quads, the back, the core. We're basically hitting everything. 2 sets of 20, showing you from the front. Knocking a set of 20 out. And then we're going to move on to the second movement for the legs. If you're really stiff, this movement right here will set you free. You'll feel limber immediately. So, as promised, resting 30 seconds or less in between sets. And hopefully you already set your Apple Watch to high intensity workout, so you can record the calories that are being burned, so you can see just how effective this workout is in changing the way you feel and look. So now we're about to get into some single leg lunges, where I'm grabbing a mace bell heads by the neck, making sure I get a deep contraction, and I'm rolling up my shorts so you can see these quads working, so we can actually see the targeted muscle groups in action where they're stretching and contracting. You see I'm getting a real deep bend at the bottom of that movement, and then I'm coming up at the top but not locking that leg out, because I'm keeping the tension constantly on that quadriceps, right? So I got to show you the other one. Keeping the mace bells in between my knee, getting a deep stretch at the bottom of that movement when my knee is bent, and we're coming up with a knee half bent. So there's contraction and tension throughout the whole movement. You know what I mean? There's no relaxation. There's no relaxation within that muscle tissue. Keeping my back straight, keeping good posture, and we driving that tension into that muscle group, which is the quadriceps. We're doing 10 repetitions on each side with minimal rest. So the cover has to come off. Because just like, an engine part, I like to use my body as an anatomy chart so you can see the targeted muscle groups working in real action with them stretching and contracting over and over again, getting that full muscle development. So we about to go into and once again, even though we're working legs, it's a full body movement because we have a static hold with the upper body holding the kettlebells in place. And then, the action movement is the quadriceps moving the body through space. So it's a full body movement, even though we're targeting the legs. The upper body is getting some work too. So 10 on each side, making sure we're getting deep at the bottom of that movement. And we're bringing the tension up at the top, trying to build them legs up. See, keeping the kettlebells right between my knee, so the tension is consistent throughout the whole movement, and I'm not rushing it. 10 on each side. And here's a coaching here's a coaching moment. Always start when you're doing bilateral movements, always start on your weak side first, because that's your most unsteady side. So if you start there first, you'll have that much more stability. So by the time we get to the strong side, which you see me working on now, my right side, we can get through the movement with good posture and good form. So always start with your weak side and end with the strong side. So I'm finishing the quadriceps up. So that's 2 movements for the legs. As I'm getting myself together, we had a squat movement and a lunge movement, working our legs in 2 planes of motion. And again, to get that full body development, we have to work our body in every plane of motion. So I'm adjusting the camera to get to the next muscle group, which is the shoulders. So, using this unique tool, the short mace bell heads, they're 15 pounds each, but due to the distribution of the weight, which is mainly in the head, it makes it a very unstable object to work with. So when you're lifting it through space, you're working a lot of stabilizer muscles. So you see me getting on my knees, no diddy, to show you full range of motion of the kettlebells in action. I'm getting a good stretch at the bottom of the shoulder movement, and then I'm contracting up and controlling the cadence throughout the whole movement. Because when you control that cadence, you're guaranteeing that you're going to get an adaptation. And we're going for 15 repetitions for these sets right here. And once again, we're sticking to the DNA of this workout where we want to create an adaptation. So we want these 15-pound mace bells to feel heavier. So, to do that, anytime you're using lighter weight, you want to cut back on the rest in between sets to make it more intense. So I'm resting 30 seconds or less, and I'm getting back to work. Getting a good stretch at the bottom and contracting up. starting wide at the bottom and narrowing the movement at the top to make sure I get full shoulder development. Controlling each repetition, and I'm not rushing. The first repetition looks exactly like the 15th repetition. And you see, I just dug my feet into the ground to basically give myself a sturdier base to keep my form together. Again, we're doing 2 sets, so you got 2 times to get it right. So the second set should always be an all out. It should have way more intensity than the first set. So we're going to move on to the second movement for shoulders. So we already did 2 movements for legs. And now we're moving on to the second movement for shoulders. And we're working them in a different plane of motion. So you see, I'm showing you that I'm locking the end of that mace bell head against my forearm. So I get a good smooth movement when I'm doing this hybrid movement. This is like a shrug / lateral raise movement where I'm hitting the lateral heads of the shoulders. And we're doing sets of 15. I'm bringing the kettlebells down inside and then I'm bringing them out wide, getting a good contraction in my shoulders. And now you see me stretching my shoulders out. And this is a good thing to do with, in between your sets to create that mind muscle connection, stretching the muscle tissue out, building a good relationship. So when it's time to contract it, you have that much more feeling within that muscle tissue. And if you got good feeling and connection to that muscle group, you're gonna be able to develop it faster. All right, so here we go with the second set of 15, taking my time, stretching it out. Controlling each movement, not in a rush. I'm making sure I'm keeping tension on my shoulders throughout the whole movement. So that's the second movement. So that's 2 movements in 2 different planes of motion for my shoulders. And once again, people that treat the body like Legos, meaning that they have a chest day, back day, etc. You leaving a lot of calorie burn on the table. And if you're doing it right, it does not take a whole workout to stimulate a single muscle group. So now we're moving on to the back, the upper back specifically. And you see me stretching them out at the bottom. And you see my back coming together, spreading out and coming together over and over again once they're stretching. Once again, we're doing sets of 15 and we're targeting the upper back region with a back fly movement. You see me stretching my lats out again, uh, building that muscle mind connection with those lats in my upper back. And if you have a problem feeling your upper back or what so have you, this is an excellent movement to break through that threshold so you can actually feel your back, because a lot of people have issues. When you look at that, you see, yeah, I'm asking you not to weaken. Don't weaken, right? Because the body weakens when you take on a sedentary lifestyle where you're not moving around. So to avoid weakening, we got to move around. So here's the second set: stretching at the bottom, getting the contraction at the top. Over and over again. Stretch, contract, stretch, contract, stretch, contract. Till we get 15. Pumping that blood in that upper body. And again, we're sticking to the DNA of this workout where we're resting minimally. So that's the first movement for the back. And then we're going to move on to the second. because to get a fully developed back, you got to hit it from every plane of motion. So now we're about to get into some back rows where I'm locking my elbows into my side, stretching them out, and making sure my elbow breaks the plane of my back every time against gravity. Keeping a straight back. Because if you got a straight back, that's a straight line against gravity, and you're going to get maximum contraction throughout your back. So the first movement we were doing back flies, and now we're rowing. So you want to make sure, that you get a good stretch at the bottom of that movement. And then we're breaking the plane of our back every time. We're not shortening the range of motion. We want full range of motion. That's how you burn the most calories and get the most bang for your buck, and you don't waste your time in the gym. You see, I'm stretching it out and bringing them all the way back, not cheating myself with none of the repetitions, taking my time. So that's the second movement for back. So being as though back is a very complex muscle group, is one of the largest muscle groups in the body. We're gonna actually, instead of doing 2 exercises, we're actually gonna do 3. Okay, so I'm gonna go get the weight bench so I can illustrate the third movement. And this third movement is gonna really stretch out the back as a whole. So if you have like a stiff back, or back with no mobility, or if you got poor posture, this movement I'm about to display will actually remedy those things. So you see me grab, I'm gonna show you from 2 angles. I'm gonna show you from the front because it's gonna stretch the whole torso out from the front to the back, right? So I'm gonna show you from the front first, and we're gonna do 20 repetitions. We're gonna keep the repetitions high. So it's going to stretch us. When you see the kettlebell go behind me, we're going to get a good stretch in our back. When I bring it back to the front, our core and shoulders are what's stopping it. And, we're getting a dynamic stretch in both directions. So I'm showing you from the front now. You actually can see the muscles contracting to stop the movement. And we're going with 20 repetitions. This also going to run your heart rate up, as well as stretch the torso in 2 different directions. So it's almost like a pullover, but there's tension throughout the whole movement, because when you're doing a lying down pullover, once you get that object to the front of you, there's no more tension. There's only tension through a short range when you're laying down, and that's when your arms are like stretched behind you. But this way, it's tension throughout the whole movement. So now watch my back. You see the tension in the front? Now see right there, I'm getting a stretch right there in my back. Right there. Right there. Over and over again. So this movement is stretching us in both directions in our torso, the whole torso, making you more limber and less susceptible to injury because you're more flexible. The body can move in more planes of motion. And it's a good way to bring detail into your back if you're always doing rowing movements. So now we completed the back. The back is done. So we did 2 movements for the legs, 2 for the shoulders, 3 for the back. And now it's time to move on to the next muscle group. And I bet you can't, well, you probably can guess what it is, because I'm about to give you a hint. I'm about to drop a hint on you. and we're gonna run with 2 exercises with this muscle group. So you see I'm doing the true transformative fitness chest bounce. So you know what that means. That's right. We about to tear that chest up. So we got the bench at an incline, and we starting off at a real deep stretch at the bottom of that movement. We're starting off wide and bringing them narrow at the top of that movement. Making sure we're controlling the cadence, and we're getting 15 repetitions. And again, we got 2 sets to get this thing right. Stretching it and contracting it at the top. Making sure we have impeccable form. Stretch and contract. Running that heart rate up. And again, we're sticking to the DNA of this workout where minimal rest, because we want those 15-pound mace bells to feel heavier and heavier and heavier throughout the whole workout. Because we know once we do that, we're causing an adaptation and we're changing. So I'm about to get into the second set. And again, after the first set, the second set should always be more intense than the second set. All right, starting off with a stretch position and contracting at the top, really stretching at the bottom and contracting at the top. Getting this chest press movement out of the way, hitting that upper chest, because we going for aesthetics. Because when you target that upper chest, it makes the chest look bigger and it fills it out more in shirts. So that's why we tackling this thing at the incline. All right. So that's the second set over with. 2 quality sets. So now we're about to go into the next plane of motion. So the first movement, we were pressing. And now the next movement, we're going to go into an incline fly movement. And again, because these things are unbalanced, most of the weight is on one side of it. We're working stabilizing muscles like crazy. It's almost like we're hugging a big tree. So we're starting off wide, getting a nice stretch at the beginning of that, and then we're contracting and hugging a big tree, not bringing the bells together or clinking them together. We're controlling the movement and just working on stretching and contracting, using our chest to move those objects through space. Going for rep, going for 15 reps. That's one set out of the way. And I want you to take notice with the second set, I'm gonna use an intensity technique to where I'm really gonna milk the bottom of the movement with stretch at the bottom. I'm gonna really hold it longer than I did in the first set. So again, resting minimally. I'm about to grab them and get back to work and get in position. And you'll see how I'm gonna hold the stretch position right here. I'm gonna hold it longer than I did the first time, because I really want to pump blood into that upper chest and get the most out of this movement. See that? Till I get my 15. And boy, did I struggle to get to 15. I know it looks smooth, but I really did. Like I put in full force effort, making sure that form is right and tight, and stretching my pecs for everything that I can, and getting that contraction at the top, and not letting the bells clink together unnecessarily. So chest is done. And now we're moving on. See, we're not even wasting time. I have a full gym, but like I say, this shows you right here that most of my tutorials are in one spot. You know, there's no magic, there's no complication. All it takes is effort and intent and purpose to get these gains. You know, you know, you don't have to have smoke screens. You don't have to have it's just you just need to have a plan and execute and be consistent and have a purpose. Because this workout was no more than 30 minutes. So we hitting them arms now, making sure the kettlebell heads are pointing at the floor. When I bring them up, they point at the ceiling. Full range of motion, controlling them. And we're going to superset this with a tricep movement, because we want to blow these arms up and be consistent and have a balanced body, because we did 2 movements for legs, 2 for shoulders, 3 for back, because we talked about how complex that was, 2 for chest, and now we doing 2 for arms, 2 for biceps and 2 for triceps. Now I turn the bell heads upside down, and now our triceps are working against that gravity head. When the head of that bell is straight on out against gravity, you get a dynamic contraction. And there you see me pumping blood into my arms and posing. You know what I mean? Even though my posing has gotten better, but that also established a good relationship with that muscle tissue. And when you actually go through the workouts, you have a better neurological connection to that area. You know what I mean? And if you can feel that area, you can develop it better. Period. So I'm wasting no time. I'm about to get right back to it. The hammer curls into the reverse tricep extensions. And these bells are blowing my forearms up, because again, the girth, no diddy, of the handles is challenging my hand grip. Especially, I've been handling for almost 30 minutes now, nonstop. So we get my 10 in, make sure I get a good stretch, good full range of motion. Making sure I'm squeezing my biceps, and I'm immediately moving in to the kettlebell kickbacks. I'm sorry, mace bell kickbacks. You see my triceps working feverishly against that resistance, and I'm controlling the cadence. When you control that cadence, that means that you really, really digging into that muscle tissue, because that's what you're using. So now, since we did 2 sets, I'm sorry, it was a superset. 1 for the bicep, 1 for the tricep. Now we gotta get the second exercise in for the triceps and biceps. So now we're hitting the long head. At first we started off with curls. Now we're starting off with tricep extensions. I'm sorry, overhead extensions. Working the triceps from a total different angle from them kickbacks. Once I got my 10, now if you notice, the bell heads are upside down. So I changed the resistance curve because my arms are fatigued. So it's still challenging, but we hitting it from a different angle once again, because we want full development. So that set is over. Resting very minimally, keeping our heart rate up, because that's the cardiovascular component of this workout, to where we're keeping our heart rate up, not resting too much, and keeping the blood inside that muscle tissue. And when you do that, that's when you're running your calories up. All right, so we about to dig into this next set. Again, stretching our triceps out right here when the elbows are bent at, and then not locking out at the top. Controlling the cadence, making sure we getting very good contractions with each and every repetition. And I'm really feeling it now because, again, this is the second set on the second exercise for triceps. And now we're going on to the biceps. Not rushing. Contracting my biceps until we get to the magic number of 10. Yep. Shaking the forearms out. Okay, now we about to I'm sorry, now we about to hit that core. Yeah, we about to finish this thing off, hitting that core. Like I promised you, full body, legs, back. I'm sorry, legs, shoulders, back, chest, arms. And now we about to hit that core. We're gonna superset this. So now you see I'm starting off with a short mace bell crunch where the head of the bell is face me, but when I come up in the crunch position, you notice that I'm making sure that the mace bell head is pointing towards the ceiling. So we're gonna do 10 like that. And then I'm gonna reverse the mace bell head and we're gonna drive it in between my legs, no diddy. Where we feel a different stimulation within my core through both directions. You know, when I went from the crunch to now the full sit up with the mace bell. So that was 10 and 10. So we're gonna repeat that once I recover. And you know, again, sticking to the DNA, 30 seconds or less. We're gonna hit that core again. And also, at the end of this workout, if I haven't mentioned it, my calorie count for this 30-minute workout was 375. So that's telling you this is a very effective workout. All right, starting off with that bell head facing my face. Now it's facing the ceiling, facing me, facing the ceiling, facing me, facing the ceiling. That's you're gonna feel a dynamic contraction throughout your core, mainly the upper part. But once we flip it around, that mace bell head is helping propel my torso between my upper legs, but it's hitting that core once again from a whole even though we're going in the same angle, but it feels different due to the fact of the resistance of the kettlebell head. I'm sorry, the mace bell head. I must miss kettlebells. I keep wanting to call them kettlebells. I must miss them. So yeah, that's the end of the workout. We full body workout, 350 calories. Like I always say, come get some.